Good morning, Nigeria. It's Thursday, the 4th of September, 2025, and you're tuned into Daybreak Live on Dominion Television. I am Oluwayemi Adelakun.
And my name is Sanulu Akpoido. As always, we are here to ask the hard questions, spark intelligent debates, and dig beneath the headlines to uncover the truth that shapes our daily life.
We begin with a declaration that touches the core of Nigeria's employment crisis. The Director General of the NYSC has said graduates must be job creators, not job seekers.
Well, it's a profound statement, but also a provocative one. On the one hand, it challenges the young Nigerians to think beyond waiting for white-collar jobs. I'm trying to look at my collar. Anyway. On the other hand, it raises a tough question. In an economy where power is unreliable, policy is inconsistent, and access to credit is limited, how realistic is this call?
Exactly. Is this visionary leadership or simply passing the burden of a broken system onto the shoulders of struggling graduates? That's a conversation many Nigerians are already having this morning.
Absolutely, I agree with you. So right on, we'll bring you the latest news shaping politics and society, followed by a dive into the major newspaper headlines with sharp analysis and context.
Then in our big story, we move from individuals to state, asking state competitiveness, models and disparities across state. Our guest, Amuda Misigbedi, a respected public affairs analyst and researcher, will help us break down why some states thrive while others struggle, and whether Nigeria can truly progress without narrowing these internal gaps.
And of course, before we sign off today, we'll take you through the Trend Watch, tracking the conversations, debates, and viral stories defining the Nigerian space today.
It's political, it's firm, it's intelligent. This is Daybreak Live on Dominion Television. Let's get started.
Shall we?
We shall.
Absolutely.
Good morning, Anne.
A beautiful morning to you this morning.
Trust you're very well.
Yeah, very well.
All right, so this morning we're having a very serious conversation, a very serious topic to talk about, and I'm speaking about what the NYSC DJ said recently. He said graduates must be job creators and not job seekers. Really, what do you make of that?
Oh, well, I think when I thought about this at first, I wanted to say it might not be a problem if it's coming from just any other person. Okay. But if it comes from the government, then it creates a question in the minds of people that why should it come from you when you also have a role to play, right? Okay. It's okay to say, I need you guys to start working, to start doing things, but it's also okay to say that, I've given you enough platform, I've given you enough opportunity, a leverage, a level playing ground for you to start working, to make ends meet in the country. I think if you start the conversation from that point, I think it makes a lot of sense. Now, I think, again, one of the things I love to say when I get into conversations, especially because I see things this way. This is the way I see things. I see if there's any issue, I try to look out for. So how do I benefit myself from this particular situation? So he said what he said, right? That is not the real thing for me. The real thing for me is what can I make of that, right? And so speaking of that, I think it's high time youth started doing what is right in terms of trying to get into these sections. I spoke at a place recently, and then I was speaking to a number of African communities, and it was SADC Council, South African Development Council, and we're having a conversation. I think my topic was focused on being at the table, not on the table. If you are on the table, you are the one they are discussing. If you are at the table, you are calling the shots. So that's the difference. So I think one of the things we should keep having is this kind of conversations. We've not had frequency of these conversations in a long time. Some of us shy away from it, especially youth. And this is really an address to many youth, myself inclusive, which I believe you are one too. So if we have to take anything from this kind of statement, I think it's just to say, you know what, let's also get at the table and start the discussion.
Definitely. I think you're very spot on. At this time, I think we should stop blaming the government for everything because, there's a saying, life will not give you what you want. You have to take what you need from that life. Even if you're new money, a time will come in your life that, what I mean by new money, maybe you're from a very wealthy family.
Like you,
A time will come in this life when you have to, take hold of your own life, determine what you want to do with your life. And speaking of NYSC, I think, for people who have, finished their NYSC or maybe are still there currently, there's a kind of scheme that is available for you that you can learn, one skill. And of course, when you listen to those people that tutor them, they will tell you most of them started as a UCOP as well. So it's an advantage, even when maybe you left school, no plans at all on how you want to, on what you want to do with your life. I mean, that's another opportunity for you to say that, okay, I want to learn this particular skill. Is it solar installation? Is it how to sew? This and that. Photography. Yeah. You can learn that and decide to build on it. And so I tell people when I speak to maybe young people who are younger than I am that start even while you're still in the university. That's the best thing to do. Because if you want to work with a particular sector by the time you're out of school or done with NYSC, can you start with internship? Intern with these people, few months, and they get familiar with the system. And another thing that I tell people is don't ever wash down the power of networking. It will help you. The kind of people that you work with, the kind of people that you allow in your space, invest in human capital. You don't know when you're going to invest in. You're going to you are going to need those people that you're already invested in. So be intentional about the kind of people that you allow in your space. I have friends who started their businesses while we were still in school, and now they are doing so well with it. So do not wait for anybody to come and save you. Yes, your destiny is too important to place it on, what the government will do. The government can. There was a time in this country that if you have just NYS, if you have just first degree, you are made for life. You get a good job. Yeah. There was also a time if you have just school cert, you get a good job. Most of them are just retiring recently because they entered into that space with just SSC, some just first degree. But the case is not the same.
It's not the same.
Like we have in Nigeria 1925. No. So take hold of your own life. Yes, the government will give you some opportunities that you can leverage on, but be intentional about what you really want to do with your own life. Let's not keep blaming government for everything. As a youth, education should be a liberation. It should not be a burden. If you are intelligent, you went to school. And one more thing is, even if you go to school, make sure you graduate well. Don't just graduate. Because the opportunities are enormous when you graduate well and don't just graduate. Honestly, that's my take on this.
I absolutely agree with you. Yeah. While you were speaking, I referred to something in what I was trying to write down. And it's all about context, right? We've spoken to the average Nigerian youth there. We've spoken to ourselves as well. But we also need to, maybe in a way, speak to the government. Okay. And in that light, we might need to maybe not call them out, but just to say that, help us build this things. But because there's a social construct that has been created. There was one time a past president of this country said, Nigerian youth are lazy. That's a very, very deep statement. If you check, so if you want to consider that, what does it mean really? Literally, what does it mean to an average youth really? If you consider that, then you see that it causes a lot more bad than good, right? In the minds of the Nigerian youth. So if you keep saying Nigerian youth are lazy, do you think it makes any sense to add that to what we are seeing now that, Nigerian youth must be job seekers and job creators and not job seekers? The narrative is still almost the same. If you check, Nigerian youth are lazy, 1, 2, you pick it again. We should be job creators, not job seekers. There's a nuance inside that particular tone that says that we are not doing enough. And I'm not trying to speak for the average Nigerian youth that we are doing enough. We need to do more, right? But I'm saying to the government that there's also a part for you to play in building what we're supposed to have. So stop saying the negatives about, everything rises and falls on leadership, right? So if you say that, keep building a constructive narrative about the Nigerian youth. Don't just say Nigerian youth are lazy. Don't just say that, you people should start. I mean, yes, this is what we need to do. I agree with them. But also you have to make your own, put your portion also on the table. Let's have it all together so we can have, I think one thing I would also like to say, in emphasis is that I love to tell people that nothing is for us without us. And that's speaking to the youth, right? Because oftentimes we want to sit there and say, whatever they bring is what we have, right? Why don't we go the extra mile to do what is right, even if it's not seeming like it's going to pay? Because eventually it's going to pay. Because like you said, some of your friends started while they were in school. I was very serious when I was in service. I was... there was nothing I did not participate in. I was representing my side group. I was doing a lot of things. I got out of that system and was waiting to, blow, like they say. But unfortunately, the platform is not so much. So that's why a lot of youth, if you go, let's think about this particular thing now. The entire population of the Nigerian state has about 230 million, thereabout, right? But you want to check how much of youth do we have in that context?
I think we have a larger amount of youth.
More like 70% from different resources.
You spoke about something. Let me quickly, speak on that, about what the former president of the country said, that Nigerian youths are lazy. See, at this point, even if you are not up to 20, if you begin to build your life around what one former president said, it's going to be a very sad, ending, honestly.
But the sad case is that it's not just that president. No, if the president is saying that and another president is coming on board to say almost the same thing. Like I was trying to make...
I get you, but let me shock you, Anu.
Okay, yes,
see, apart from the president, even people that you know, some family members, friends, they might say something worse than that.
Absolutely.
So if you dwell on that statement and you don't take hold of your life, you might be shocked in the next 5 years when you see your mate.
I totally agree with you.
Honestly, so no matter what anyone says, whether former president or someone close to you, it's not your, you will determine whether it is your reality or not. Don't be shocked. That's why we say beyond talent and maybe skills, you have to develop passion for whatsoever it is you want to do, because rough days will come and you will need more than your talent. So do not build your life around someone's statement or someone's point of view. When people speak to you, take what you need and drop the others and move on with your life. I bet you, the Dangotes of this world, the Lumelus of this world, people doubted them at some point. People told them they were lazy. If they stayed on that spot and they move ahead, I don't think they'll be where they are today. Do not build your life around people's opinion, really, especially the bad ones. Yes, you might take it sometimes to build, because I tell you, people will challenge you sometimes by some of the things that they tell you. So this is how I see this. I'm a realist. So maybe that's why I'm finding...
No, it's okay. I mean, that's a very good ideological stance.
Honestly,
but, just like you also mentioned, let me just say that we've said that, and that is very profound. Another thing that I'm trying to say is that for the government, for people in power, for leaders, you have a responsibility to your people.
Definitely.
Social constructs, social-cultural constructs, all of these contexts are also something you should be mindful of, right? Because we are impressionable at the face of words, especially if it's repeated. So if you say something to me today, and I say, I'm going to shrug it off, there's no point, I'm not thinking about it. You say it tomorrow, you say it next tomorrow, and you're my leader, I'm impressionable. That word can become something that might become a stronghold for me and might affect me. That's the point I'm trying to make for.
Because some people don't know how to actually, weave off, wrong speech or something.
Let's put it this way. Some people are not like you, very realist and, realistic, and trying to say, okay, this thing is not for me, I know what's for me.
At the same time, you can decide to put yourself in a space whereby you don't need to hear all of those things all the time. If you work well with appraisers, find people who can tell you, I see that light in you. It's not working yet, but it will definitely work. That's why I talked about networking, the kind of people that you allow in your space. If you're friends with people who put you down all the time, I bet you in a few months, you begin to see yourself as a failure. Absolutely. Not because you cannot do it, but because of what you hear all the time. So yes, have people who will say to your face, you're not doing well on this, but also have people who can tell you, you have what it takes to be better. That's the way I see this matter.
Exactly.
I think it's a fine place to leave it. But you have something to say.
No, that's okay. I just wanted to round it off to say, whatever we do, right, as youth, let's remember that nothing is for us without us. We have a role to play.
Definitely, definitely. And of course, this is a call to the government as well. In any way they can try to help the youth, they should do that. And of course, do not put your destiny on the government. It's a fine place to leave it on this segment this morning. Thank you for being a part of the segment. We need to take a short break now, and when we come back, we'll take the weather reports. Please stay with us. We'll be right back.
Live from the heart of the action. Welcome to the nerve center of Next Level Broadcasting.
This is the OB van, where the studio meets the street.
Equipped with cutting-edge cameras, crystal clear audio, real-time switching, and broadcast control, we don't just capture moments, we deliver the experience live.
Anywhere, anytime, from stadiums to red carpets, breaking news to buzzing festivals, weddings, birthdays, and all sorts of ceremonies. We bring the world to your screen in real time.
It's not just a van, it's a complete mobile production house, a command center, a broadcast beast.
This is more than a broadcast. This is the OB van difference. Live, loud, limitless.
Ready to go live? Like never before. Book the OB van today and take your event to the world. One powerful broadcast at a time.
To book, call 0705 506 1061 or 0916 101 1061. Email marketing@dominion.org.ng or visit our socials on Instagram @Dominion Broadcast.
Dominion Broadcast, your channel of choice.
All right, I welcome you back. Thank you for staying with us. It is time to take the weather report across the country. Let's start from Ifo, Ogun, Nigeria. Weather this morning feels like 24 degrees Celsius. And of course, we have humidity around 91%, visibility around 9.66. And of course, talking about the wind, we have 5 km/h, dew point 23 degrees. That's what we have this morning for Ifo, Ogun, Nigeria.
And now to Lagos State, Lagos, Nigeria, we have, it feels like 25 degrees Celsius today. And in the morning, we have a bit partly cloudy, around 25 degrees Celsius. Also, later in the morning, around 26 degrees Celsius, which is obviously mostly cloudy. And 26 degrees Celsius later, which is also mostly cloudy in Lagos State today.
Well, let's talk about Abu. We are not crossing over now. Abu is very close to us this morning.
Yeah.
So weather feels like 23 degrees Celsius and, of course, cloudy around 12%. And, of course, still this morning, mostly cloudy around 12% and later cloudy around 12%. Of course, that's what we have this morning for Abu, Nigeria.
No, now we may cross now, but still in southwest, of course. This is
okay.
Osogbo.
Please do cross.
In Osun State now, crossing over now. 22, it feels like 22 degrees Celsius is what we have right there in Osogbo, Osun State. And of course, in the morning, early hours of this morning, we have 23 degrees Celsius cloudy, 24 degrees Celsius cloudy as well later in the morning. And of course, later we have like 25 degrees Celsius also cloudy in Osun State.
All right, let's cross over to Enugu, Nigeria, where that this morning feels like 23 degrees Celsius. And of course, wind around 5 km/h, dew point around 23. That's what we have this morning for Enugu North, Nigeria.
And on the west, on those states, Nigeria, it feels like 22 degrees Celsius cloudy this morning. Of course, day is 29 degrees Celsius and night is 21 degrees Celsius. Of course, some other parameters you might need if you are flying as a pilot. But if you're not, maybe you might still need to consider the humidity at 96%. Of course, high or low wind as well at 5 km/h.
All right, I think that's all we can take for weather reports this morning. And we need to take a short break. However, do want to follow us across our social media pages on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook @Dominion Broadcast, and of course on X @DominionCast. Do well to drop your comment. Be rest assured that we're going to read them on air this morning. It's time to take another break, and when we come back, we take daybreak news. Anu Oluwapo is waiting. Please stay with us.
Live from the heart of the action. Welcome to the nerve center of Next Level Broadcasting.
This is the OB van, where the studio meets the street.
Equipped with cutting-edge cameras, crystal clear audio, real-time switching, and broadcast control, we don't just capture moments, we deliver the experience live.
Anywhere, anytime, from stadiums to red carpets, breaking news to buzzing festivals, weddings, birthdays, and all sorts of ceremonies. We bring the world to your screen in real time.
It's not just a van, it's a complete mobile production house, a command center, a broadcast beast.
This is more than a broadcast. This is the OB van difference. Live, loud, limitless.
Ready Ready to go live? Like never before. Book the OB van today and take your event to the world. One powerful broadcast at a time.
To book, call 0705 506 1061 or 0916 101 1061. Email marketing@dominion.org.ng or visit our socials on Instagram @Dominion Broadcast.
Dominion Broadcast, your channel of choice.
Hello and welcome. This is Daybreak News on Dominion Television. My name is Anulu Akpo Idowu. President Bola Tinubu has directed an immediate review of security operations in Katsina State to address the recent surge of attacks on innocent citizens by bandits. Tinubu stated this when he met with a delegation of prominent citizens from the state, led by Governor Diko Umaru Rada at the State House to discuss the security situation and potential solutions. Additionally, the president announced plans to evaluate the operations of state police and to further equip recently deployed forest guards.
I'm reviewing all the aspects of the security. It might be necessary, instead of all this civilian, this Amateko, this, or JTVFT, civilian, that, and I have to create state police.
I've had recent incidences in Katsina in the last few days, and we felt that it is necessary for us to come and see Mr. President and share our sorrow with him and inform him of our challenges.
Those of us who know you, we know you have the courage, the vision, the ability to confront odds. You have taken very hard decisions. Only leaders can take. But decisions you have taken on behalf of this country are decisions that show that you love the country.
The president assured that the armed forces will deploy more advanced military equipment and surveillance gadgets to bolster security efforts. The federal government has introduced a full list of subjects in the newly introduced school curriculum. The special assistant to the president on social media, Dada Olusegun, in a post on his X handle, displayed an unsigned and unmarked image said to contain the subjects for junior secondary school and senior secondary school, JSS and SS, respectively. The curriculum, which was unveiled by the federal government, introduces compulsory digital literacy and basic entrepreneurship at the JSS level, while programming, artificial intelligence, and new languages feature prominently at the SSS level. Still talking education, the National Examinations Council (NECO) has announced a reduction in the number of objective questions for English Language Paper 3 in the Senior Secondary Certificate Examination internal. Effective from the 2026 SSCE internal exams, the total number of questions will be reduced from 100 to 80. In an official notification signed by the state coordinator for Osun State, Sunday Bolaji, stated that the new paper structure includes 6 sections. Meanwhile, NECO has invited interested CBT center operators across Nigeria to apply for accreditation subject to strict technical, infrastructure, and security requirements to ensure examination integrity and smooth implementation. Following the incessant flooding in Nigeria, the president of the Association of Environmental Protection and Climate Change Practitioners, Kenneth Iyamu, has stated the creation of dams and stability of policies as a way to mitigate the menace, describing it as a global phenomenon. Speaking in an interview, Iyamu said that flooding needs to be managed optimally, stressing that the annual flood outlook is a good way to mitigate it, but more attention needs to be given. He, however, stated that Nigeria is in the category of countries with extreme weather, which makes it prone to flooding, advising that momentum actions need to be taken swiftly rather than mere prediction in ending flooding. And now in Oyo State, the Oyo State College of Nursing Sciences, Elayele Ibadan, inaugurated 4 new faculties designed to meet the growing demand for nursing education. The state government said that it marked a significant step in nursing education at the institution, elevating former departments of nursing, midwifery, and public health within the college to standalone faculties of medical, surgical, maternal and child health, public health and community care, and psychiatric and mental health. This was contained in a statement by the State Commissioner for Information and Orientation, Dotun Oyelade, in Ibadan, the Oyo State capital. The provost of the college, Dr. Gbojubola Owolabi, said this elevation recognizes the college's long-standing contributions to nursing education and the growing demand for its programs. Away from Oyo State to Nasarawa State, where the Nasarawa State Governor, Abdullahi Sule, has expressed concern over recent attacks in Doka and Kuduku communities, as well as rising cases of kidnapping in Lafia local government area, stressing that the protection of lives must take priority over infrastructure projects. Speaking at a security meeting with relevant agencies, Governor Sule noted that while his administration continues to invest in roads, schools and clinics, such efforts would be meaningless if citizens are unsafe. The meeting was convened to strengthen collaboration among security agencies and stakeholders, with the governor pledging swift action to prevent further attacks and safeguard peace across the state. And now in business, the Director General of the Bureau of Public Enterprises, Ayodeji Belei, has disclosed that 91 federal assets will be privatized as part of ongoing efforts to optimize public enterprises, attract investment, and boost efficiency across key sectors of the economy. The DG disclosed this at a media briefing in Abuja, where he stressed that the process will be handled carefully and sector by sector to protect national interests. He stated that out of the 91 firms the government has earmarked for privatization or commercialization, 16 are in the oil and gas sector, including refineries and depots, though he did not name them. He added that 12 operate in agriculture, 20 in aviation, and 28 are in other public enterprises. And now in sports, Super Eagles head coach Eric Chell has all the invited 23 players at his disposal for the 2026 FIFA World Cup qualifiers against Rwanda and South Africa. Galatasaray striker Victor Osimhen, Samuel Chukwueze, Tolu Arokodare, Raphael Onyedika, and Chrysanthus Uche all breezed into camp. Nigeria will host the Amavubi of Rwanda in the Matchday 7 encounter on Saturday. Meanwhile, the encounter against South Africa will be held at the Toyota Stadium, Bloemfontein, next Tuesday. You can visit our website on www.dominion.org.ng to watch us live and interact with us. You can also follow us across our social media platforms, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, and LinkedIn at Dominion Broadcast, and next at Dominion Cast. And as Daybreak News, I am, again, Anoluakpo Idowu. Thanks for watching. Daybreak Live continues shortly.
Live from the heart of the action. Welcome to the nerve center of Next Level Broadcasting.
This is the OB van, where the studio meets the street.
Equipped with cutting-edge cameras, crystal clear audio, real-time switching and broadcast control, we don't just capture moments, we deliver the experience live.
Anywhere, anytime, from stadiums to red carpets, breaking news to buzzing festivals, weddings, birthdays, and all sorts of ceremonies. We bring the world to your screen in real time.
It's not just a van, it's a complete mobile production house, a command center, a broadcast beast.
This is more than a broadcast. This is the OB Van difference. Live, loud, limitless.
Ready to go live? Like never before. Book the OB Van today and take your event to the world. One powerful broadcast at a time.
To book, call 0705 506 1061 or 0916 101 1061. Email marketing@dominion.org.ng or visit our socials on Instagram @Dominion Broadcast.
Dominion Broadcast, your channel of choice.
Thank you for staying tuned. Welcome to Newspaper Headlines Analysis on Dominion Television. Once again, now we get into the print. Of course, the papers are quite heavy this morning. If you hold one paper this morning, you probably see the bulk of the stories that are there, sparking interest and political debate across. Of course, we check into every of those this morning. I have quite a few with me. Of course, the Daily Trust is with me, where I'll check into the stories. Of course, the spotlight story on the Daily Trust newspaper is a big caption that might interest you. Of course, it will interest you. I can end banditry in 2 months. You want to know who said that? That's coming from Zamfara governor this morning. And of course, just a brief caption to that, he said he's swearing to Almighty Allah that wherever a bandit leader is located within Zamfara state, he can get them out. That's what he said, the Zamfara. Maybe we should call him the savior now, maybe like Jabawa of 24 for the Nigerian state. Maybe this would work. If someone can make a bold claim to say, I can end banditry in the country, why not give the person a chance, I mean, it's something you might want to do. But of course, moving on from that story, still taking some other stories on Daily Trust newspaper. We're trusting the stories to Daily Trust this morning. And of course, 29 people die in Niger boat mishap, unfortunately, this morning. I don't like to share bad stories, but sometimes we don't have choices. Sometimes we have to make do with whatever we have on the newsprint, and that's what we have this morning. Tout chase couple to death in Abuja. Another shocking story, alarming, not so good, appalling. But of course, where do we go from here? Moving on from Daily Trust newspaper to check some other prints. This one, the Guardian newspaper, is of interest to me, and I think it will be of interest to you. And it's speaking to insecurity. The front page, the big caption on that particular newspaper this morning, the Guardian is guiding us into insecurity. And what is it saying? Federal government reopens debate on state police as Tinubu declares readiness. That's on page 6. If you want to get more on that story on the Guardian newspaper, federal government reopens debate on state police as Tinubu declares readiness. You might want to check that story this morning. We'll probably have conversations around this as well, in-depth analysis, unbiased, like one of my bosses would say. Yeah, moving on from that story, right on the top corner of the Guardian newspaper, non-oil growth accounts for 20 trillion naira income, says presidency. That's another report from the presidency this morning, saying that non-oil growth accounts for 20 trillion naira income, according to the presidency. Now, Constitution Review is also right there. If you check, as you can see on your screen, Constitution Review says Abbas unveils proposed amendment to Southern stakeholders. That story is right there for you to check. DSS arraigned 9 suspects over Benue Plateau killings. I think maybe this is a good thing to think about right now, talking about insecurity in the country. Airline operators defend discriminatory, expensive Yuletide flight ticket. That is also a subject of discourse this morning. We might want to check out that as well. Zulum leads Northeast governors to Tinubu, seeks completion of 17 roads oil exploration. Now, poly lecturers may withdraw services after ultimatum. That is also another bone of contention. This one, we'll get into all of those analysis shortly. Meanwhile, move on to the Vanguard newspaper this morning. What do we have on the Vanguard newspaper? The Vanguarding story on the Vanguard newspaper, topping the chart, is I have to create state police. This seems like not so much of a far cry from what Nigerians are expecting. There's been conversations before now. We've had conversations on state policing. Some have said this would work for the Nigerian states. It will check the menace of insecurity, especially in some regions where we have people coming through, trooping into those communities, that people that do not belong to those communities. And, you know, I think I had a conversation one time, and I think the analyst was speaking to me on what used to be way back, that if anybody comes to a new place, if you see a new face, you probably know this is not one of us. So you can tell and ask questions. You call the person to say, okay, so where are you from? Why are you here? And all of those things. We'll get into all of that shortly as well. But that's coming from Tinubu. He says he has to create state police. Maybe this is exactly what Nigerians are clamoring for. We get into all of that analysis this morning in the course of time. Price hike right on the top corner of Vanguard newspaper. Price hike, no subsidy on CNG, says the federal government. So there's also that debate of, you know, price hike and then CNG as a thing in the country. Some have said that, okay, so what if we now bank on CNG and all of a sudden it skyrockets in price, in cost, as every other thing in the country? But, you know, maybe the government has said, you know, this is a way to go. And if you consider environmental policies, this is a good one. Because I personally think I like climate action and all of these things. So it makes more sense to shift our focus away from fossil fuel and all of that, and now focus more on CNG and other alternatives for, you know, powering every system. Now, moving on from that story, alleged terrorism. DSS docks 9 over killings in Benue and Plateau State. I hope this would be able to resolve all the problems we have talking security in Benue and Plateau State. Now, moving on from that to federal government not using anti-corruption agencies which hunt opposition. That's coming from the minister, saying federal government is not using anti-corruption agencies to which hunt opposition and all of that. And I mean, the minister is saying that as well. Now, the Nation newspaper has Tinubu's victory in 2027 is sure, says Abdul Mumin. Tinubu's victory in 2027 is sure, says Abdul Mumin. That story is on the Nation newspaper this morning. And of course, that is a big story we also harp on a bit this morning. Yes, of course, many stories are still breaking, but we need to get into the analysis. And this is where we get to have that conversation, the hard conversations that we said we were going to have this morning. Of course, stay with us. And when we come back after this break, we'll have that conversation extensively. Don't go nowhere. The conversation is calling. Welcome back. Thank you for staying tuned. This is Headlines and Analysis. This is the segment of the analysis where we get into the stories that are breaking, developing across the nation, and sometimes trending too, because many of the stories are trending across different platforms, across different newsprints, and we'll get into that. And I will not be doing that alone. This morning I have the honor of having on seat and live in the studio with us Lekon Shobowale. He's a journalist and public affairs analyst. Thank you very much for joining us this morning. Good morning to you, Mr. Lekon.
Good morning, Yemi. How are you?
My name is Hanu. Thank you, sir.
Yeah.
All right, so let's get into the conversation proper. And the first story I would like to harp on a bit, and I would like you to help us dissect, of course, is Tinubu's victory in 2027 is sure, says Abdul Mumin. And it seems like we're having a conversation of 2027, forgetting there will ever be 2026.
You know, it's so unfortunate and so funny that, you know, it was a gathering, I think, 4 days ago, and you know, I was sitting with a former deputy governor of Ogun State, Senator Wingakaka, and he asked me and said, Shubo, what was happening? Is there not going to be 2026 again? I said, Your Excellency, what happened? He said, don't you observe that Nigerians are not even discussing about 2026, as if after 2025,
we'll jump right
is 2027. And of course, you can't blame them, you know. Politicians are everywhere, you know. And politicians think of the next election. And that's why there has been so much noise and cries over 2027. And, you know, barely after a year that President Bola Ahmed Tinubu got into office, then we started having all these coalition talks, all these meetings, all these negotiations and all this stuff. And, you know, everything centered on 2027. And whatever step government takes now, you know, the opposition believes that it is towards 2027. And of course, even the government machineries, the government officials and political office holders, they are all thinking and looking towards 2027. So it tells you how much Nigerian politicians are attached to elections and not really about governance. You know, politics should be about governance and not about election. But in Nigeria, you discover that what we have is politics, you know, not for governance. You know, for most of our politicians in Nigeria, they are so greedy and they are so selfish. You know, barely 2 years into your government, you know. We are now in August, I mean September. So just 2 months and maybe 3 months. You are now talking about 2027. Next year we are going to have election in Osun. Maybe next year or towards the end of this year. There's going to be election in Osun State and Anambra State. Nobody is talking about it. So what was so special about this presidential election that people are talking about 2027? I think it is important for our political gladiators and stakeholders to, you know, because the more they talk about this 2027, it brings more pressure. You know, it brings more, you know, unnecessary distractions, even to them that are in government and that are discussing about 2027. I think the noise about this 2027 should be reduced, you know, and they should try and concentrate on. We voted for them over 2 years ago, expecting that they are going to offer to us dividends of democratic governance. But instead of that, a year into their governance, you know, they started the noise of 2027 in 2024, barely a year after. You know, that's when you have most of these governors, you know, defecting, senators defecting, House of Reps defecting, barely a year after the election. It is not too good. Sincerely, we can't really find this in developed nations of the world.
All right.
Even developing nations. We have Ghana, we have Guinea, we have Ethiopia. How many times have you been hearing that, you know, defection, negotiation, planning for the next election? Let us concentrate on what we have now. Then, before 2027, we still have 2026. So 2026, you cannot be at least negotiating and be, and not in 2025 forgetting that we are still having 20. I'm very sure 2026 will not even be happy with them. forgetting
if it's a person. Now, I think we've scratched the surface a bit now. So let's get deeper into that conversation really this morning. I was thinking about it to say, if we have this kind of noise all around 2027 presidential election and all of those big elections, which is, of course, we might say maybe they are planning and all that. But how prepared is the Nigerian listening to this? Because I know from their end, they're trying to say, we are gathering up, we are, bending from one ideological stance and one political party to another. We are defecting, we are getting more people into the party. But what are we doing? Or what should Nigerians do at this very point in time to also get themselves prepared?
Well, for me, I don't think Nigerians, what would they be preparing for? There are so many problems in the country. There are difficulties everywhere. Majority of Nigerians are living in abject poverty. As we wake up this morning, for some of us that's a bit close to our people, you receive messages and calls every morning. I can count how many messages I received this morning talking about urgent 2K, talking about urgent 3K. How would such a person prepare for 2027 elections? And that's why I said most of our people, most of these politicians, they are so greedy. Instead for you to see, as Nigerians, are we supposed to be preparing for 2027 in 2025? Yes, we can start the preparation. We have started already because now we're having a permanent voters card online registration. Now they have started physical registration. That is part of preparation. It's preparation. But that does not mean you have to abandon all other necessities and now concentrate on 2027 election. Online registration, you can sit in the comfort of your room and make the registration and get it done. And after that, you can go out to any INEC offices in your local government and complete the registration. But that does not mean we should not abandon governance. We should not, because our politicians have abandoned the people now. They are talking about 2027. For opposition parties, whatever the federal government is doing now, they are tilting it towards 2027, which you're not supposed to be. So for me, preparing for 2027 is out of it for now. Yes, Nigerians, you have to be preparing for 2027, by getting our PVC ready, for the new voters going out there to register for their PVC online and physical. But that does not, it has nothing to do with politicians. It is now the responsibility of Nigerians, for those that are here to get their PVC, to get their PVC ready in order for them to get the job done in 2027.
And exercise their duty.
And exercise their...
As a Nigerian. Yeah. Let's take a stretch away from that story now to the Punch newspaper to get something quite punchy this morning. APC, opposition clash over federal government revenue growth claim. Now, we've seen in recent time, of course, the president and the presidency have come out to say that we've done this, we've done that. They were mentioning many of the, what they call metrics, like they would say KPI in the business world, in the corporate world, key performance index or indices, as you might like. So they're saying that we've done this, we've done that, and it's like now we are getting it right. I think the president also spoke recently, just I think yesterday or the day before, and was saying that, we're on the right path, we're on the right course and all that. But the opposition are coming to say that your revenue growth claim is non-existent. It's not affecting the everyday Nigerian. But so how do you, I want you to speak to this issue. Do you think what the presidency and the president are saying to do is actually what is a reality for an average Nigerian?
Sincerely, it is not. But that does not mean the federal government is not trying. That does not mean President Bola Ahmed Tinubu is not working. There is what we call data and statistics. The federal government, is working with data, made available to aid to his officials by his various agencies and parastatals. Yes. You know, the president said 2 days ago that, you know, between January and August, you know, we have achieved so much. But the true meaning of governance is, are your people being affected positively by these policies? The answer is no. When you go out there, you know, the federal government is talking about increase in revenue generation. You know, they are talking about the base of GDP. You understand? So, but all these things, are they really affecting the lives of ordinary Nigerians? They will come out and tell us that politics is local. Governance should also be local. You don't understand. Is it okay? As we are in Nigeria now, we are running a democratic governance, and you come out and tell us that politics is local. If politics is local, governance should be more local. You know, governance should not be about those people living in Abuja or those living at Banana Island in Lagos State or Lekki. Governance should be about those people living in the innermost parts of Akoro in our local government. Those people living at Idiayunre, those people living at Adebayo, those people living at Epakpo, and not about people living in Ibadan, or not about people working at the state government secretariat. You know, the people at the grassroots, you know, they are the ones that are feeling the heat of these policies of the federal government. You know, federal government is making money. How will it not be making money? Before now, we have international passport as 26,000 naira. Now you are saying that for 34 pages, people should come and pay 100,000 naira. And for those people that want to japa, they will have no choice than to go and look for 100,000 naira and pay. So how will the revenue generation not increase? You know, we have custom every day. They are getting imported rice. They seize all these things from the people, keeping it, you know, getting cars, seizing, and people are paying through their nose. But well, maybe that's not the problem. Maybe that's not the concern of the federal government. But it should. All these policies that the federal government is saying is working, are we seeing the impact on the ordinary Nigerians?
Yeah.
That is the basis. People are the basis for governance. You understand? And governance should not be the basis for the people. You know, don't enough of, you know, economics, and see, there can never be better economics than what people are feeling. Are people happy? This has nothing to do with the federal government. Part of the economic improvement is that state governors are now getting increased allocation. Ekiti, that before now they are getting 3 billion, 4 billion, they are now getting 13, 14 billion. So now, what is the interpretation of this increase in allocation on the people of Ekiti State? Oyo State, 5 billion, 6 billion. Now we are having 18, 19 billion. What is the interpretation of this on the people? Because there is nothing like federal government. Federal government is in Abuja. But we have state governments here. All this money that they are claiming they are getting now is being shared between the state government, the federal government, and the local government. In Ibadan North, in Ibadan Southwest, in Ibadan Northeast, are we feeling the impact of this progress in governance? Look at our roads, access roads in Ibadan. I'm not talking about
the major ones.
The major ones, the interchange, the what's that one on the Lagos Ibadan expressway?
Federal
you know,
roads.
all these new roads that they are creating all around inside the bushes. Let us talk about the access roads. You understand what is happening? to our access roads. You know, these are the interpretation of all these policies and theories that they are talking about. Someone in Egbeda local government don't understand data, don't understand statistics. Government is saying they are no longer borrowing locally. How are we going to know?
All right. I would like you to also, speak to this issue of insecurity or security as we have it. You know, the president came out to say on the Vanguard newspaper that he will create state police. Do you think that's the right way to go? There's been a lot of clamors before now, but of course I want to listen to what you have to say concerning that. What do you think? What do you make of this whole issue? I have to create state police.
State police is long overdue. You understand? And, you know, let us be sincere with ourselves. Most of the states are now having state police. In the southwest, we have Amotekun now. Amotekun, you know, is the creation of state police. In the northern region of the country, we have Isba. They are state police. In Anambra State, we have Oye Kashiya, Oye Shiapama, something like that. Those people that recently beat a youth corps in that
vigilantes
state.
And all of this local security.
Those are the creation of state police. We have state police. The only thing is that it is yet to be formalized. And by the time, yes, you know, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu is someone that believes in regional governments because he understands the polity and politics of Nigeria. So he knows that the moment we have state police, most of our insecurity issues will stop. So, yes, we have state police. That's why in Oyo State, you can observe that we have almost every week I traveled between Ogun, Lagos State, between Ogun, Oyo State. Most times I go through Ijebu, the Anyoye axis. Most of the times I've been attacked. In fact, most times when we drive on that road, you know, they will tell you don't go forward though. That armed robbers, they are on that road, they are operating. You have to park your car and wait till they are done. But now, all those things are stopped because you see Amotekun officers there permanently, they sleep and wake up there. Then you see many of our officers on that road. So, you know, Governor Seyi Makinde, like a few weeks ago, was talking about, you know, purchasing choppers for Amotekun and all those stuff. Yes.
That's the way to go.
That is the way to go.
All right.
So we are only waiting for President Bola Ahmed Tinubu to pronounce, to formalize, and let our National Assembly members, you know, make it to be a law.
Okay, so this, for want of time, we'll quickly harp on this a bit further. A lot of people have said there are loopholes in state police, and they've attributed it to the control coming from the state government and all of that. So, but what do you think should be in effect when this is about to be put into check? What are the metrics? What are the points we should strike to say, okay, this is what we will tackle so it doesn't happen that way or this way?
Well, Nigerians, we are progressing and we are growing. So all those you should expect all those teething problems as you go. Even when you are talking about federal police, many people have control over them. When a state governor is telling them to do something, they will telling you they are getting order from above. It may not even be from the Inspector General of Police, maybe from a minister representing that state. So there will always be issues. There will always be teething issues. But as we go, we'll be getting it right. But that does not mean we should not have a state police. Let us have a state police. When we get to the breach, we cross it. So when we have a state police, you know, let's see the governor, you know, that will be controlling state police, that will be dictating to the state police. But let's, you know, forget about governor or state government will be controlling them. Let us have them. What is the essence of state police? We are having a state police because we understand that the indigenes of the states will be recruited into the state police, and they understand the terrain of their community. Someone from Ibarakpa will be recruited into the state police and will be posted to Ibarakpa. So he or she understands the terrain of his community. That is the essence. Forget about government is controlling them. What is our business with government? We are talking about reduction in crime rate. We are talking about state government is controlling. Let us have it there. Then when we have it, then we know the next thing to do.
Okay, there's another story on, NLC, Nigeria Labour Congress, is saying to the federal government that they should emulate states that pay above 70,000 minimum wage. Now, this has created a lot of controversy. If you check, some states like Ebonyi, some states like Oyo State decided to go a bit further. It's them higher.
Imo State 104.
Absolutely. So this is the case, and some states, unfortunately, are saying they might not be able to pay 70,000 naira. Exactly. So now NLC is saying to the federal that they should emulate states that pay above 70,000 minimum wage. Do you think this is the right call to the government?
See, this issue of minimum wage, this 70,000, is number one, is somehow systemic. Systemic in the sense that, let me give you an instance. In a state, I don't want to mention any state. In a state, the government is paying 77,000 naira. And in that state, a level 12 in that state receives 165,000 naira in a month. Now, I don't know if you are an economist. Level 12 officer is receiving 165,000 naira. Is that a true reflection of government paying 77,000 naira? No. You have in a state, the governor is paying 70,000, level 8 is receiving 120,000 naira. That is a true reflection of a government that is paying a 70,000 naira minimum wage. So, some will come out and tell you, we are paying. See, it is not like some of our people used to say, it is not minimum wage that we need. It is living wage that we need. A state will claim it is paying 77,000 naira, and you'll be having his level 7 officer going on with 35,000, 40,000 naira. Is that a minimum wage? They will tell you they have made some deductions. What kind of deductions? So, there is a kind of, I don't want to use fraud now. There is a kind of dishonesty in this thing they call minimum wage. I think NLC should look critically. NLC is not doing what it should be doing. It is not the responsibility of the NLC. NLC, Nigeria Labour Congress, should be saying, to be appraising, to be commending state government, to be telling a governor that emulates someone that is paying 70,000. We have government that are paying 77,000, 80,000, 85,000. That it is not the true reflection of what they claim they are paying. That is, you look at the wage adjustment. That is what NLC should be doing. NLC should be they are supposed to play a monitoring role and supervisory role when it comes to all these self-acclaimed minimum wage governors. You don't say a governor is paying 70,000 naira. Others should emulate. Okay, now we have a governor that is paying 104,000 naira.
Yeah.
And state governments, they don't have the same ability and capacity. If a governor is to pay 50,000 naira, let it be reflected. Let your people feel it that, yeah, in our state now, yes, we tell Governor Seyi Makinde, the civil servants, they are commenting, they are saying the 80,000 naira the government is paying is reflecting in their salary. That is what we are saying. But in some states, they said they are paying 7,000 naira. The civil servants are saying that it is not true, that's a lie. So it is important for NLC to look into the adjustment, the wage adjustment. It is not only for the state governor to sit in his office and be saying that he's paying 1 million naira minimum wage, 200,000 naira minimum wage. It is not the wage that is necessary. It is living wage. Give the workers a wage that they can live on. That is the most important thing, But unfortunately, we don't have NLC at this NLC. Okay,
so I want to lean in on what you said, to speak to what you said about living wage, and I think it's a good conversation. And I also want to propose maybe to put you on the spot a bit. I'm sorry for that, but so if you would say living wage for the Nigerian state, how much do you think would be enough?
Let me tell you one thing. I heard the former minister saying something on the program. Said, in Nigeria we have, you see, workers, going on strike, claiming, humongous, wages. We have doctors, nurses, ASU, everybody, KWASU, going on strike, claiming that they want. See, Nigeria is not that rich. Nigeria is not rich as a nation.
Some people will beg to differ.
But see, let me tell you one thing.
Okay.
Majority of Nigerians, or most of our people, believe Nigeria is rich because of the wayward and the lavish lifestyle of our leaders. Nigeria is not rich. It's not rich in quotes as most people believe. But most of our people, most of these NLC, the KWASU, the ASU, okay, take for instance, a professor in the university collecting or receiving every month 450,000 to 500,000 naira. When a member of the House of Assembly, the least qualification to be a member of the House of Assembly, even the least qualification for a National Assembly is SSCE. And you have a senator that takes home 35 million naira every month. 35 million naira every month. And you have a professor that have read with a lot of research,
yeah.
Taking 500,000 naira. And when you see all these senators, all these House of Reps, ordinary local government chairman, when you see the kind of lavish lifestyles they live, when you see them at parties, when you see them at clubs, lunches, when you see them at bars, the kind of life they live. So Nigerians believe that our nation is rich, but no. I've looked at the statistics, I've looked at the data, that indeed Nigeria is not rich. But because of the few ones, few ones are leaders, they live a life, and you believe that Nigeria is so stickingly rich. So everybody is having this sense of entitlement that, yes, increase our salary, but it's not so. But I'm not speaking for Nigerian leaders, but it is a fact. I always believe like Nigeria is that rich. But in recent times, I looked at some data, I made some research, and I understand that we are over 230 million Nigerians now. And what we have in Nigeria now, if you have to share it among Nigerians, hardly will each person go with $1 million naira. But the truth of the matter is that you have a senator that is taking the money of almost 1,000 Nigerians, taking it home, putting it in his pocket. So by the time Saul started living a reckless and lavish lifestyle, people believe that Nigeria is rich.
Because that's the narrative that is being pushed forward.
Yes.
And it's skewed.
Yes. Our leaders, they live a life of extravagance. They live as if there is no tomorrow. They live as if people are not even watching them. So, and when you see Nigerians, you see ASU, they look at a minister that cannot even speak good English, living like King of England. Now they will also have a sense of entitlement that as a professor, with my experience, with all the years that I put into research, taking 500,000 naira home. When in neighboring African countries, they pay $2,000, $1,500, convert that to naira. But the truth is that the kind of lifestyle that our leaders are living, is convincing Nigerians that Nigeria is so rich. If our leaders can go to UK, go to US, look at their leaders, look at their way of life. Simple, decent.
And transparent.
But Nigerians, every day they talk about billions, trillions of naira. Someone will just pack everything, put inside his pocket. Then the next morning, the following morning, ASU will come up that 2009 agreement, almost 25 years ago, ASU will now come up with 2009 agreement because they believe there is trillions of naira somewhere in the reserve. So the mentality is, let us all share this thing and everybody should just go away.
Mr. Leko Oshibowale, thank you very much again. But I think I still want to stand on that question. If we have to consider everything that needs to be considered, the metrics, maybe how much you buy food items, how much all of those things, how much do you think is
let me tell
the
you,
living wage for an average Nigerian?
Living wage. Okay, let's do it this way. Daily, if I'm leaving my house, if I'm going out of my house, at least, I get a fuel of 10,000 naira into my car every day. So you have to go out Monday to Sunday. That is 70,000 naira. Multiply 70,000 by 31 days. How much would that be? That is on fuel. I have my children going to school. You know how much you pay for private schools. I have other things to take care of. If you are paying me 1 million naira monthly as a minimum wage, do you think that will be sufficient for me? No. See, and that's why I said, don't let us discuss minimum wage. Minimum wage is not living wage. Let us discuss living wage. And how do you discuss a living wage? It is not by apportioning 1 million, 2 million naira to a worker every month. It is by sitting down, look at it in salary structure. You have basic salary, you have allowances, you have furniture, you have all these things. And most of these analysis, you know, the last time they were changed was maybe 20 or 25 years ago. Look at all these analysis, payment analysis, and consider the reality of what we have in now. Then you use that to decide the living wage. That is number one. Number two is, people have been talking about having price control board, but the president is saying that he's not going to introduce or establish a price control board. When we have a price control board, when you go to market, if Governor Seyi Makinde come out this morning and said, I'm increasing Oyo State worker salary from 80,000 naira to 500,000 naira, when you get to Bodija, they will tell you a congo of garri that used to be 600 naira is now 5,000 naira. You ask the mama, kí ló ṣẹlẹ̀ now? Wọ́n ti fowó kówó òṣìṣẹ́. No, it should not be so. Even when you are giving a worker 100,000 naira a minimum wage, and they are selling garri 500 naira, the garri should not exceed that 500 naira. And that is when the minimum wage will have a meaning to an ordinary Nigerian worker.
It's a wonderful conversation this morning, actually. You know, so many things to really grapple with. Of course, we have to continue, and that's a very good place to say thank you for joining us, Mr. Lekan Sobowale, public affairs analyst and a journalist. Thank you very much.
God bless you.
Of course, Nigerians, we have to take it a step further now. And speaking of that, we'll join, Yemi on the next segment of the show. And of course, it's going to be a very big story. Like we call it, big story comes up. But that will be shortly after this break. Join us again.
Live from the heart of the action. Welcome to the nerve center of Next Level Broadcasting.
This is the OB van, where the studio meets the street.
Equipped with cutting-edge cameras, crystal clear audio, real-time switching, and broadcast control, we don't just capture moments, we deliver the experience live.
Anywhere, anytime, from stadiums to red carpets, breaking news to buzzing festivals, weddings, birthdays, and all sorts of ceremonies. We bring the world to your screen in real time.
It's not just a van, it's a complete mobile production house, a command center, a broadcast beast.
This is more than a broadcast. This is the OB van difference. Live, loud, limitless.
Ready to go live? Like never before. Book the OB van today and take your event to the world. One powerful broadcast at a time.
To book, call 0705 506 1061 or 0916 101 1061. Email marketing@dominion.org.ng or visit our socials on Instagram @Dominion Broadcast.
Dominion Broadcast, your channel of choice.
Power and progress in Nigeria are no longer measured only by who sits in Abuja, but by what happens in our 36 states. Each state has become a battleground of ideas, resources, leadership, and vision. Some are pulling ahead with bold policies, while others are falling behind, trapped by weak institutions and over-dependence on federal allocations. This uneven landscape is what fuels debates like the one we saw recently, when Daniel Bwala first declared Lagos a no-man's land before retracting and describing it as the heartbeat of the nation, pointing to its scale of development. His words and his quick U-turn underscore the reality that Lagos is often used as the yardstick of competitiveness, yet many other states have their own stories of potential, of struggles and of disparities. We see this gaps not only in infrastructure or governance, but even in workers' pay. Some states have boldly raised their minimum wage far above 70,000 naira, while others are still negotiating at 70,000 naira, barely able to meet that threshold. These contrasts beg the question, what truly makes one state competitive and another stagnant? So today on Big Story, we are asking tough but necessary questions. What models of competitiveness exist in Nigeria? What lessons can states borrow from each other? And how do we bridge the wide disparities that continue to define our federation? To help us unpack these, I'm joined by Amuda Musigudi, a public affairs analyst and researcher with deep insight into governance and development trends across Nigeria. Welcome on board.
Thank you so much for having me.
All right, let's talk about this topic in particular. When we speak of state competitiveness in Nigeria, are we really talking about governance capacity, or is it more about natural advantages like geography and resources?
Let me start, by painting this analogy. Okay. There's a story of a rich man who has a departmental store. So one of the stores, sells vegetable oil. One of them is a pure water making factory and a bottled water making factory. One sells food items, one sells spare parts and all that. Okay. Now, the danger or the mistake the man made was that it did not matter whether one store was making profit or loss. As long as the staff, members of staff were paid their salaries. So some departmental stores were living fat off what was gained, as profit from other departmental stores. And the effect of it was that some departmental stores naturally became redundant and stagnant, and as a result of that, the overall profit that would have been made by this chain of businesses could not be made, because the place of reward, and compensation was not there. So while I use this analogy because if you look at these items I mentioned, they are also season bound items. For instance, a store that sells stationery, knows that now resumption of students is around the corner, so there will be a boom in stationery business. A store that sells vegetable oil, for instance, knows that there will be a boom from September upwards, because people will need to stock, their houses towards the festive season. There will also be a boom in February because people need to stock their houses towards that season. Now, there would also be a boom for, the spare parts industry, because during the dry season, the wear and tear of automobiles are much. So if you look at it this way, you'd understand the place of, what in political parlance we call it competitive federalism.
Okay.
Why there is a need for also competitive federalism. Now, the current pariah of federalism that we practice, although there is nothing like true federalism, every federalism is true. Against what someone like Professor Casey would say, that the U.S. federalism is the ideal. There is no ideal federalism. Every country adopts their own federalism. The one that suits their own. It is sui generis. It's context dependent. So if you look at countries like Germany, if you look at India, okay, if you look at Australia, if you look at Switzerland, these are countries that you also have, competitive federalism. What competitive federalism essentially focuses on is not just the governance, it's a blend of the two. Okay, so it is about the governance, it is also about the natural resources, because we know that in every situation, as we are taught in economics, there will be the place of comparative advantage.
Okay.
Why should I waste my time, okay, dealing, in something that I know I do not have comparative advantage over others? All right. So okay. I will not, for instance, I will not go into vulcanizing because I don't have comparative advantage over someone who is a vulcanizer. I will not go into masonry because I am not a mason and I do not have comparative advantage over one who is a mason. But that which I have comparative advantage on, I'll build on it. Okay. And the one who is a mason will consult me because I have comparative advantage in that field. Now, what we can do, or what we should be doing as a country, is where we allow these different, subnationals to build on that which they have comparative advantage on. So we know, for instance, that because of the vast arable land, in the north, okay, the north can be, would have comparative advantage in terms of agriculture, particularly in terms of food crops. Okay, we know that the southwest, for instance, has comparative advantage in terms of, cocoa production, cotton, and all that. We know that the south, okay, because of, proximity to water bodies, okay, more than any other region, even the southwest, would have comparative advantage in the marine, or the blue industry. So every region, every state should be allowed to, build on that comparative advantage that they have. With that, no one will be willing, or no one will have that sense of eagerness to be going cap in hand at the end of the month to Abuja. Because what do you see? I'll give you an example. Tales, from the grapevine, as in that the governor of Kogi State has been in Abuja for the past 1 month, mourning the passage of his father.
Okay.
Now, were it not to be the case that, of course, at the end of the month he was going to get something from Abuja, would he sit in Abuja when he knows that all that is going to, depend on for his state will come from the state, from Lokojan within its, its premises or its, its proximate environment? He will not sit in Abuja. So that sense of what I'll call prebendalism has been so promoted that we have become so lazy, we have become so indolent, and we have become nonchalant in our governance. Why do I need to bother myself when someone is going to feed me? Okay? Now, look at, if you have kids at home, the reason a child will not mind sleeping till 10 a.m. is because he knows that what betides you if you don't provide his meal. But the father would not dare sleep till 10 a.m. The mother would not dare sleep till 10 a.m. But where everyone is bringing something to the table, okay, everyone becomes active and everyone builds on their natural resources. Let me share this. One of the arguments that we've often had in the First Republic, particularly from the First Republic, Awolowo, has been the champion of federalism. But the whole call for federalism and, regional control of resources came after the, the global boom in the cost of cocoa. In the 50s. Okay. In the 50s. Okay. And so with the boom in the cost of cocoa, which is now, cocoa became like the oil of that time. And so there was that boom. It is that money that you saw used in the building of what you now call Cocoa House and, some other infrastructures, in the Southwest. Now, everyone will build on that. And interestingly, virtually every state in Nigeria has certain resources. All right, I was doing analysis in 2019, and I said Ondo State happens to be the state where there is the highest number of arrest on cannabis.
Okay.
And interestingly, cannabis is outlawed in Nigeria. But do you know how much Ondo State, for instance, can be making in forex from medical cannabis? The UK is one of the biggest, foreign, forex earners from cannabis production globally. All right, followed by, then you also have Canada. And imagine what they are. They do not have what Ondo State, for instance, have. I remember, while in a particular place in Ondo State, you see a vast land, hectares of land that was used to harvest cannabis, as illegal as it is. So it means that we can convert all these leakages, okay? We can convert them to areas of strength. That's where our competitiveness comes in. So when we know that, now the whole idea of competitive federalism says that states begin to jostle with each other using taxes, as a way of luring people to them. If I know that the road network between Lagos and Ibadan is fine,
okay,
and it is cheaper to live in Ibadan than in Lagos, and I know that if I need to resume office by 8 a.m., I can get to Lagos, I can get to the island in Lagos before 8 a.m. Why will I want to live in Lagos? I remember, when I was working on the island, some 2 decades ago, I was living in Ikorodu, for crying out loud, and I was working on the island. Okay? And it was a lot easier for me. All I need to do is get to the, the jetty, the ferry park at 7:15. So I don't even stand up from my bed until 6:30. Not that I'm asleep, but then I don't stand up until 6:30, and then I get myself ready. I'm at the jetty park at 7:15. The ferry takes off at 7:15. By 7:45, I'm already on the island, just close to the office, and then I walked into the office. But those who woke up at 5 a.m. will get to the office late. So that's the whole logic. So by the time we build this sense of competitiveness, we will be having a better country. But the problem is that our governors have become, they have been so fed. Imagine the governor who receives 1 billion naira. A good number of the governors, receive 1 billion naira for security votes, for doing nothing, for securing nothing. And so you feel that governor will be thinking of improving the revenue base of his state. Definitely not. Look at what our states are generating as IGR. Take away Lagos, Rivers, and say Kano, and maybe an FCT too, from...
What about Ogun?
Even what Ogun is generating is not at its maximal.
But Ogun is part of the top 5.
Yeah, part of the top 5. Imagine you have a student who takes the 5th position, and his percentage is just 55.
But we have people in the top 30.
Yes, definitely.
So top 5 is not bad.
Well, nonetheless, but then you don't compare based on numbers, you compare based on results.
Okay.
So a child who can reach someone who can reach a maximal point of 100 is doing 50. That's not something that should be commended. So we are promoting mediocrity, and that's why we have a lot of our states and state governors have become mediocrities across board. So we need to review it. We need to begin to think about resource control. We have the most powerful president in the world.
In the world?
Yes, the most powerful president in the world.
On what basis?
Because of the powers, that the Constitution has arrogated to Mr. President. And that is why you see that the quest for presidency is almost a tug of war. If we encourage and build our subnationals, the local governments, the state governments and all that, we would have less of it. So someone who wants to contest for governor has to pay 200 million naira or 500 million sometimes for nomination fee of his party if he belongs to a major party. All right. Now, if we empower local government, some of us, we grew up knowing how strong local governments were. And we saw how, the jostle to become a local government chairman was rife. But now nobody is thinking of that because you only get one silly allocation from a governor who deems it fit to just maybe allocate 1 million naira to you. You can't do a major project. The only projects you can do are hands me down.
Okay, let's talk about this now. The increase in the revenue of the state across the country, how well has it helped, I mean, to increase that level of, competitiveness in the state?
It cannot help in any sense.
Why?
Now, increasing the allowance of a child does not make the child more productive.
Well, are you not seeing how some states have increased their minimum wage? For instance, Imo State now increased from 70,000 to 104.
So what is the level of infrastructure in Imo State?
Okay, you tell me.
So that's the point. So you have raised, we have increased minimum wage. Unfortunately, Nigeria is the only country where paying of a salary, paying of salaries that is due to workers is deemed as an achievement.
Okay. Because
we have chosen, so you see governors across boards campaigning, we were paying salary as and when due, as if that is the only thing they were elected into office. Interestingly, civil servants do not constitute up to 10% of the population. So those in the informal sector suffer badly because of bad roads. Even the civil servants, what they have, as take home cannot take them home, because a lot of things are affected. Now, if we're able to ensure, for instance, food security, if Oyo State, for instance, decides that, we're going to sit down and say, we want to improve on food production, go to Oyo National Park. It has become a den of bandits and kidnappers. Thank God that they're being routed out now. That place is a vast arable land that we can use. Go to Ibarapa in Oyo State. The whole of Ibarapa, the 7 Ibarapas, towns. Go to Okiogun. You see vast lands not being utilized.
Okay.
Because the governor knows that at the end of the month, something is going to come from the center.
Speaking of your state, I have this record here, this point here. It says, I want it to be on record that I, Honorable Shitu Ibrahim, representing Shaki West State constituency in your state, is not among other lawmakers who approved a loan of 300 billion naira on the 19th of August 2025 and perfected on 26th of August 2025. The House is currently on a 6-week recess from July 31st to September. It now says underneath, loan at this time when all states have more than enough, or your state now receives about 500% increase in FARC. Why take this loan? Why is the loan an emergency? And why was the sitting not communicated to all the honorable members? A secret loan of 300 million naira despite the increase in the federal government revenue. What is going on?
Because we have emboldened that sense of entitlement. We have emboldened a sense of entitlement where governors are not responsible. You talk about Oyo State and then you look around the state and all you see is what I call jaundiced development. So a governor thinks that patching the roads of Bodija, some bad roads in Okeado makes him the best thing that has happened to this country after the discovery of Agege bread and Ewa going.
Okay.
It's just a reality. What happens to what's the level of development in Okiogun? What's the level of development in Ogumosho? What's the level of development in Oyo? What's the level of development in Ibarapa? So you focus on not even Ibadan. Ibadan major city. What happens to Ibadan lesser city? Go to Akron. Go to Idiobi. Go to Amuloko. See the state of the roads. Now, these are, when you leave the core, you see, a lot of times what we have in Nigeria is what I call cosmetic development. So when you are done, then you apply the cosmetic to look better, but then the real problem is still there. Now we have areas that could be producing, so we have areas in Ibadan that could also be be giving us as much as we want, but then those areas are not serviced. We cannot but have situations like this where a governor will still seek loan because he knows something is coming from the center. If you have to work your ass out to pay the salary of your workers, in fact, the truth also is that go to the civil service and then you see the level of indolence you encourage, where someone is seated, with doing what someone else can do. That's the truth. So we have an over-bloated civil service. But because in Nigeria, one of the things to campaign with is that, oh, I employ people. If you service the private sector enough, all right, you will understand that the private sector will provide those jobs. In fact, there is no one, unless someone who is stealing, who can, become rich in that sense of the word from working in the civil service. Compare the pay in the civil service to the pay in the private sector. All right, so it's not there. It's not anywhere close. But because we have emboldened that sense of dependency in our states, we have situations where the fiscal recklessness of governors is top-notch in this country. Let's go to India, where states know that you need to generate so much more. So they will ensure that necessary development in areas that are bringing forth the money is there. If not for the whole crisis of militancy in the Niger Delta, some of us know the state of disrepair that you have in the Niger Delta region. All right, so it's that terrible.
Okay, let's talk about Lagos now. Just recently, this man that we know as Daniel Boala, he said Lagos State is unique because it's a no man's land. And a few hours later, he came back to retract his statement to say Lagos State belongs to Yoruba people. He now said, what New York is to the U.S., what majors like London is to the UK is what Lagos is to Nigeria. And so people should stop complaining about the fact that Lagos is more developed than all other states in the country. Lagos, according to him, is like the cosmopolitan hub of the country, the entry port that receives people from across the country. The northern people, they have actually accused the federal government of developing some states in the southwest more, especially Lagos. Why? What is happening? What is Lagos doing better, apart from those advantages that, is available in Lagos, really?
I think it's the same question we would also ask. What is Abuja doing better?
Okay, Abuja comes second. Lagos comes first.
No, but then, because of, these are places that are melting points. They are melting pots. Be it Abuja, be it Port Harcourt, be it, Lagos, these are melting pots. And in some federal system, for instance, in India, there are states that have what we call special status.
Okay.
Okay? And by special status, it means that such states will get preferences. So there is nothing out of place if a state like Lagos, Kano, Rivers are getting special, some special preferences, some preferences above other states, because they are like a melting pot. So you have people from different walks of life. Oyo State, for instance, cannot compare itself to Lagos, because you see people trooping into Lagos, and there's a need to meet all these demands, and the state alone may not be able to meet those demands. But it still comes down to that area of building what I'll call that sense of viralness on the part of these states. Now, you see that you ask, what is Lagos doing differently? The fact that Lagos State is like the entry port, an entry point into Nigeria, okay? You have almost the same number of flights. In fact, Lagos records MMA records higher number of flights, even than Abuja, than Nnamdi Azikiwe Airport in Abuja. So that tells you of how important Lagos is. It then means that we need to then build on that. We cannot have a situation. Why do we have people trooping to Lagos? I mentioned that earlier. If there is good road network, the rail system is good, not the one where you leave Ibadan at 8 a.m. and then you are getting to Lagos at some minutes before 11, at quarter to 11. That's not a good rail system.
Okay, if government is building roads in Lagos State, what happens to other states?
That's the point. There should be collaboration. We can have, for instance, this project that this government is doing, however white elephantish it may be, the coastal road project is a good one. The only problem in Nigeria is that we have good ideas that are run the wrong way. Okay, the coastal road, for instance, is a good one. This this road that is also planned to run through the desert, from Maiduguri outward and then Trans-Saharan Road is also a good one. It connects states. So you don't have that huge population concentration in one place. When you have that decongestion, it would allow other states also develop. Now, go look at it this way. Sangota is not in Lagos State. Sangota is in Ogun State. Okay. Agbado station axis is not in Lagos State. It is also in Ogun State. But because of proximity to Lagos, you see the same number of people there. There is no reason why Shagam should not have the huge concentration that Lagos is having. There is no reason why a place like Araromi in Ondo State, which is just about 25 minutes, ride from Araromi to Ibejuleki, should not have the same, concentration of humans as you have in Lagos. But because these areas are not developed, no one wants to move from there to these, what I'll call interlands. So when we're able to develop all these states, if our states get on their, get their tracks. For instance, there was at a time to have, what they call the Southwest linkage roads. I remember in 1999, there was a discussion among the 80 governors then to have a Southwest linkage route where I can live in Ado, for instance, and be working in Lagos. It's not impossible. Where I can live in Oshogbo, for instance, and be working in Lagos. If the industries are concentrated in Lagos, okay, and then we can also begin to rework our taxing, our taxation system. If I live in Ado and I work in Lagos, where is my payee going to go to? Don't forget, I live in Ado but work in Lagos. So that also must be worked out. That's why I said that, in competitive federalism, states use issues like taxation to lure people. So there's always this heavy migration. So people feel that, okay, this state, okay, I think it's cheaper to live in this state. Let's move there. Oh, no, this state has better taxation system. This state has better housing system. Let's move there.
But speaking of that, I don't think it's very cheap to live in Lagos, yet people are trooping in.
Well, because they don't have an alternative. It's the same, it's a reason. People are trooping into Lagos because they don't have an alternative. And so you see, shackles that have been turned to houses. At least we saw in the news how people were paying house rent under the bridge. Paying as much as 300,000 naira to live under the bridge.
There have been an argument that apart from the fact that Lagos has some advantages, it still boils down to active governors that have led that state, to the place where it is today. They made reference, to for the current president that we have, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, and other governors that have led that state. And then you mentioned Ondo State. Currently now, a man on Twitter made a bold claim to say that he doesn't understand what is going on in that state, especially with what the current governor is doing. So do you think, apart from the resources, apart from whether some advantages that are available in a state, it still boils down to how active the sitting governor is?
Really? Well, you can't take away the place of the role of the governor and of course his efforts. Definitely. Let me start by responding to the the man from Twitter who said he doesn't know what's happening. Well, I'm happy to tell him that his governor is busy dancing around, so at least he should now know what his governor is doing. Okay. And dancing in Nigeria has become a part of governance. Okay. Jesting around has become a part of governance. And if you look around all the states now, we talk about Bola Ahmed Tinubu, and some people will say, oh, he's the the builder of Lagos or builder of new Lagos and all that. Well, the truth also is that, like I said, if you have an optimal performance level of 100 and you are doing 40 to 50, what will give you your flowers? We must also give you the knocks. All right? So, how many low-cost housing estates were built by Bola Tinubu? All right? Yes, there were roads that were done and all that. Yes, let's also give it to him because of the terrible policy of Obasanjo to withhold local government funds, which came during Fashola's time, and we saw how those funds were deployed. But then one thing you saw that Tinubu brought to the fore, give him his flowers, was he was the one that made local governments become active. The level of revenue that is now raised in Lagos did not start now. Okay, it was a child of necessity. I know for sure, for instance, that when the issue of withholding local government funds came up, the state had to look inward, and then they started raising revenue. So those taxes that people were meant to pay before that they were not paying. Do you know how much the state in this country loses to non-state actors? I did an analysis in 2019 when the governor of what's it called? This governor came on board.
Okay.
And I said that Oyo State loses more than 5 billion monthly to the hands of non-state actors in the transport sector alone.
That's sad, honestly. Unfortunately.
So move around, you see how much they are losing. So someone is collecting certain tickets and then they go to private buses. So you now see why the chairman of NURTW can have, can live the life of Solomon, having tons and tons of girlfriends and all that, who are going to be feeding fat off what Iyamulika in Bodija, Baba Shegun in Orita Akperin, Bawasiu in Ibarapa are supposed to be living on.
Okay. Unfortunately, we can no longer continue this conversation, but I think it's a fine place to leave it. Just in 1 minute, what's the way forward now?
Well, the way forward is simple. Let's begin to live away with. We need to first. Our problem is like they say that the hunchback. The hunchback porter was told that he's carrying his load in his land, and he said, "You are looking at the top. You're not looking at the base." The ground norm, which is the constitution, needs to be reviewed.
Okay.
If we don't review that constitution, we'll still be moving around it. We have talked about state policing. How can you have state policing when your constitution does not allow for it? How can you have...
The president just mentioned recently that he's going to allow state police.
It's already overdue. So we need to look at reviewing our policies, our constitution, so that it can allow for a level of control of resources by the states.
Okay.
We need to reduce the number of powers. Why should we have allocations? Imagine in our federal, in our fact sharing, the federal government still takes the larger share. And less than 40% goes to the state. So 36 states will share the 40%. Why? Because the federal government takes the larger, the larger burden. Why do you need the federal ministry of education in Oyo State? What is it doing there?
Honestly,
yes. And across all
these
the
are
states.
the questions. These are the
issues.
issues.
These are serious issues that we need to consider. You can collapse them into the state, structure, and then they'll be working with the states.
These are the areas we need to look out for, and I do hope that this conversation will reach the appropriate authorities.
Hopefully, if they will not turn a deaf ear as usual.
All right. It's a fine place to leave it this morning. Thank you, Mr. Amuda, Mr. Gode, for breaking this down so clearly. From our conversation today, one lesson stands out. State competitiveness is not an accident. It is a choice. States that invest in leadership, infrastructure, and people reap the benefit, while those that remain dependent and unimaginative stay stuck. We've seen it in the wage disparities, where some states can pay well above 70,000, while others struggle with the same figure. We've seen it in Lagos, hailed as the heartbeat of the nation, yet reminding us that other states too can beat with equal strength if they make the right choices. And we've seen it in the contrast between states that attract investors and talent and those that drive their people away. The truth is, Nigeria cannot grow if only a handful of states are competitive while the rest drag behind. Competitiveness must become the new standard of governance, a benchmark by which citizens hold their leaders accountable. I leave you in the hands of these viewers in form of a question as I close the segment. And so, the question goes back to you, our listeners. Is your state competitive? And if not, what must change? My name is Oluwayemi Adelakun. Thank you for being part of Big Story this morning.
Live from the heart of the action. Welcome to the nerve center of Next Level Broadcasting.
This is the OB van, where the studio meets the street.
Equipped with cutting-edge cameras, crystal clear audio, real-time switching, and broadcast control, we don't just capture moments, we deliver the experience live.
Anywhere, anytime, from stadiums to red carpets, breaking news to buzzing festivals, weddings, birthdays, and all sorts of ceremonies. We bring the world to your screen in real time.
It's not just a van, it's a complete mobile production house, a command center, a broadcast beast.
This is more than a broadcast. This is the OB van difference. Live, loud, limitless.
Ready to go live? Like never before. Book the OB van today and take your event to the world. One powerful broadcast at a time.
To book, call 0705 506 1061 or 0916 101 1061. Email marketing@dominion.org.ng or visit our socials on Instagram @Dominion Broadcast.
Dominion Broadcast, your channel of choice.
All right, I welcome you back. Thank you for staying with us. I'm not alone in the studio. Anu is back here with me. Welcome back.
Thank you very much for having me.
All right, I don't think we can take turn word again today because of time, but we would love to appreciate you all for joining today's Daybreak Live session on Dominion Television Ibadan. We appreciate you do well to join us same time tomorrow, 7 a.m. to 9 a.m. And thank God it's Friday extra. It's going to be massive. Do well to be there. My name is Oluwayemi Adelako. I'm saying good morning.
And my name is Anulu Akpoido. Thank you very much once again for joining us. Of course, remember that nothing for us without us, Nigerians.